Hey guys, what's up? Zijin here, and this is my review of the Xiaomi Air 12. This is Xiaomi's very first try at a laptop, and it is geared towards those who want a true ultra-portable experience. It has a Core M6Y30 processor, 4GB RAM, 128GB of storage, and a 1080p screen, all for $500. Compare that to the 12-inch MacBook and the Surface Pro 4, you're paying well over $1,000 for either of those devices. But there are no devices that are perfect, and in fact there aren't many that are, so let's go into the good and the bad of the Xiaomi Air 12. I'm a fan of clean industrial designs on laptops, but the design here is a bit too simple even for me. There's no logo on the top of the laptop, it's just a clean metal surface, and the rest of the ultrabook looks the exact same plane as well. That's not to say that it is ugly, because it actually doesn't look too bad at all. It's made out of pure aluminum and is a very premium build. It's almost as small as a 12-inch MacBook, and it fits pretty much anywhere, but it does feel a bit bigger than the MacBook because it doesn't taper. You can open the lid of the laptop with one hand, and when you open it, you see the screen with the very small bezels around the side. They're not as small as the Dell XPS 13, but they are small enough not to be ugly. The keyboard is backlit and the backlighting is bright. The keys have a ton of key travel. The keys feel a tiny bit soft to me, but that's just personal preference and might not actually apply to you. The trackpad is very good for a Windows laptop. It's very precise and multi-finger gestures work very well as well. The one complaint I do have is the inertia when you try two-finger scrolling is not as good as pretty much any MacBook you can find. So overall, the build quality in the Xiaomi Air 12 is pretty great. I really don't have many complaints, but the one thing I will complain about is that the texture of the aluminum is a bit rougher than what I like. I like smoother aluminum, but again, that's personal preference and not actually a knock against the laptop. We have here a pretty standard 1080p 12.5-inch screen, and it has some pretty good saturation and pretty good colors. Stuff generally looks good on it. It gets moderately bright for a laptop, topping out at around 300 nits. It's still hard to see outside in direct sunlight because of how reflective the screen gets. But other than that, I don't have any complaints about the laptop screen itself. The two downward-firing AKG speakers produce some very decent sound, and that is in no doubt helped by the rubber feet on the bottom of the laptop that elevate it above any surface you put it on. However, if you put it on a soft surface like a bed, then the audio does get muffled. The quality of the audio is very impressive as well. You get lots of bass, clear mids and highs. Here's some sample audio for you to listen to.
Hey, how's it going guys? This is Dave2D, and this is my review of the 2016 13-inch MacBook Pro. So when they first announced this thing, I had mixed feelings. One, I was excited because it's the new MacBook Pro, but then I looked at the paper specs and the price tag, and it was a little less appealing. $1,500 with no OLED strip. But I've had it for a week. These are my thoughts. Okay, right off the rip, the build quality on this thing is...
Battery life is where the Xiaomi Air 12 stumbles a little bit. Where most competitors get over 10 hours of use, the Xiaomi Air 12 gets around 7 hours, which really isn't that great. I was mostly using it for web browsing in Chrome, working on Word documents, and watching TV, so nothing too intensive like games or video editing. I really wish battery life here was better, but we kinda do have to settle with this laptop. I did the web browsing test and it died after 6.5 hours. I did the video playback test and the laptop died after 8 hours, which actually isn't that bad. The included charger actually charges up the laptop pretty fast. I could charge it up to about 50% in 40 minutes and all the way to 100% in about 100 minutes total. Light and medium users, this will be okay for you, but heavy users will definitely need to use the included charger before the day ends. So software is another area where the Xiaomi Air 12 stumbles a little bit as well. You either get an unactivated version of English Windows or an activated version of Chinese Windows. And sadly, you can't use the Chinese key on a fresh install of English Windows. So you have two options here. One, you can either buy a new key from Windows, or you can learn Chinese. I chose neither. I actually just lived with the unactivated version of English Windows. Because there aren't a lot of functions that are disabled, those are mostly the integration functions with Microsoft accounts. The included SSD makes the device feel fast and zippy, and it takes quite a bit of multitasking to slow this device down. I had about 12 Chrome tabs open, including The Verge's super heavy webpage, and I was also working on a Word document and watching some TV as well. I could also do some basic photo and video editing. I actually edited this video on the Ultrabook itself. Editing was actually pretty fast in the 1080p timeline, but encoding took forever. It took almost 6 hours to encode this video in 1080p before exporting to YouTube. I could do some light gaming as well, but frame rates in general were pretty bad unless I lowered the settings down to low. I could play games like League of Legends, Call of Duty, and Civilization 6, all of those on low settings, and they ran pretty well, but battery life is going to be the big issue here. Connectivity is a pretty mixed bag. You have on one hand a full-size USB and a fully functional USB-C port, but I was kind of hoping for at least 2 full-size USB ports since there's a lot of space along the sides of the laptop because it's not tapered. There's also a full-size HDMI port as well, and that works very well, but the one thing that's missing is an SD or a microSD card slot, and I'm not sure why Xiaomi didn't include it in this laptop, since there's so much space along both sides of the laptop to include it. However, Wi-Fi is incredibly fast. It has a wireless AC, same as my Jumper EasyBook 2, except it's way faster than that laptop. So when you compare specs to price, you're getting a pretty good deal. For $500 you're getting a Core M3 processor, 4GB of RAM, and 128GB of storage, all of this capable of doing some light gaming and even some light video editing. The laptop is built well, you get a pretty good screen and pretty good speakers, however battery life is pretty mediocre, topping out at around 7 hours, and you get Chinese windows instead of English. Even though this laptop has a pretty good spec to price ratio, if you live in North America, it's not that great a deal. And the reason being that the resellers bumped the price up to about $580, and at that price you might as well get the Asus UX305, which has the same to better specs for around $600 to $650. Thanks for watching, let us know how we're doing, and if there's anything you would like reviewed, we love hearing back from you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.